What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is time for Week 1 Premier League predictions for the 24-25 season. Massive shout out up here to all of you that have joined the Members Club here on YouTube by clicking the join button down below. You can get exclusive members tips and accumulators. And shout out to everyone flashing up on the screen that has joined over on the Patreon. And remember, for at least the first month up until the international break, anyone that joins or is a part of the Patreon will be entered into the $100 giveaway draw. I will randomly select one of you to win $100 PayPal when we hit the first international break. So if you want to get involved with that, get all the other perks and everything like that over on the Patreon, click the first link in the description. Of course, it's the first full weekend of football, so we'll be back there with tips too. So if you want to get involved and get a shout out in a video, then click the join link down below. But regardless of all that, we are back with our Week 1 Premier League score predictions and tips as well. There's some pretty good value in here, and of course I do give a tip for each and every single game for free in these videos. So sit back, relax, enjoy, type your predictions down in the comments. Why not pause this video, drop a like while you're down there, and leave your predictions before I tell you mine, and then you can compare yours with mine and see if you did better or worse than me. Now, kicking it off, we have Manchester United up against Fulham. This is taking place tomorrow, Friday Night Football, under the lights. This could be a potential banana skin for Manchester United. Fulham have got some good talent going forward, attacking, and I do expect them to breach the Man United defence. Manchester United, however, they have been fairly active actually in the transfer window, bringing in Matthias de Ligt, who combined with all of his transfers is probably, I think he is the most expensive defender in football history with his transfers to obviously various different places. I'm going to give this one to Manchester United. It's the easy pick. My tip, however, is not going to be in the Man United win market because I could see there being a little bit of an upset here. I think this fixture last season ended 2-1 to Fulham, but I am actually going to go for 2-1 to Manchester United. It might even be that Fulham take the lead and Man United go on to win, but they really need to kick off their campaign with a win if they have aspirations for top 4, maybe even higher than that. So Man United 2, Fulham 1, but the tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.57. I'm fairly confident on that. After this, a game where all eyes will be on this game. It's Arne Slot's first game in the Premier League as Liverpool manager, and it's Ipswich's first game in the Premier League following their double promotion from League One up to the Championship, up to the Premier League. So it is Ipswich at home against Liverpool. I'd love to predict Ipswich to get something out of this game, but in terms of result, I just don't see it. I am going to give them a goal. I think it could be a goal. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Liverpool, and my tip is going to be Liverpool and over 2.5 goals at 1.66. Low odds because it's very likely. I wasn't quite brave enough to tip Liverpool and both teams to score because you just don't know. I think you do need to take a little bit of a watching brief with the newly promoted teams in some ways. And obviously, if you remember last season when all three teams went down, it took them until I think the 6th or 7th game week for any of the three promoted teams to even get a win under their belts. And I don't see any of the three promoted teams getting a win for this first game week. But Ipswich play Liverpool, Southampton away at Newcastle, and Leicester hosting Tottenham. So not easy fixtures for those newly promoted teams, and we'll get onto all of those in a little bit. But after that, we have Arsenal up against Wolves. I've got one of my older Arsenal shirts. I think this shirt is about two seasons old now. Well, maybe 3 seasons old now. It's not one of the Arsenal shirts that I've worn the most, but I found it today, knew I was recording, and it doesn't have any green on it, so it doesn't disappear with the background like a lot of my Arsenal shirts do. They have little segments here and there that disappear with the green screen. But Arsenal up against Wolves, this, a few years ago, is a fixture I would be a bit scared of. Wolves, the kind of team like your Fulhams, your West Hams, your Brentfords that could give Arsenal a bit of a game, but these days, I'm not as worried as an Arsenal fan with this kind of fixture. So I'm going to keep it quite simple. Arsenal to win 2-0. And my tip is going to be Arsenal to win and under 3.5 goals at 2.1. I could see this being 3-0. The only way I see this not coming in is if Arsenal win it 3-1. I know Arsenal beat Wolves, what was it, 5-0, I think, on was it the last day of the season? But I don't think it doesn't need to be as crazy as that. So I think Arsenal will be happy just easing in. You could look at Arsenal -1 handicap. Odds will probably be about 1.5, 1.6 there. But I've gone for Arsenal and under 3.5 goals at 2.1. I think Arsenal and over 2.5 goals was lower odds. So I'm just hedging my bets a little bit and saying that it'll be a comfortable but not outrageous Arsenal win. And obviously, as an Arsenal fan, if it does happen that way, I wouldn't be too disappointed. After this, it is Everton up against Brighton. A little spoiler alert, in my crazy table predictions, the ones that I wanted to pick but weren't brave enough to pick over on Patreon, I actually tipped Everton to go down, which maybe that was just wishful thinking. I think they've been quite lucky recently. They're not of the 3 worst teams in the league, but they always seem to kind of mess up a little bit. Brighton have had a very hot pre-season, scoring lots of goals, playing brilliant football, and they could get a result here, but I think home advantage will help Everton a little bit, and I could see it being a stalemate. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, and the tip is actually going to be draw at 3.3. The bookies can't separate these two teams, odds of 2.62 for either of them to win. So really, suggestion is that they couldn't be closer together in terms of likelihood to win this game, and I tend to agree with that. After this, it is St. James's Park for Newcastle up against Southampton. As I said in my Premier League predictions video last week, if you want to go and see how I predict the Premier League table to go, you can look at that. But Southampton, they finished lowest out of the 20 Premier League teams in this current season. Last season, I believe they finished essentially 24th in the English football pyramid, behind Leeds in 3rd, but then they managed to beat Leeds in that playoff final after beating Leeds in the final game week of the Championship fixtures to see them promoted again. But Newcastle, they're going to win this game, and it's going to be quite convincing. It's going to be high scoring. It's going to be big. I'm going to go for Newcastle to win 4-1. My tip is Newcastle and over 2.5 goals at 1.66 again, like the Liverpool one, because again, I'm not as confident in picking both teams to score. You know, relying on Southampton to score at St. James's Park seems a little bit of a challenge, but I think Newcastle could easily score the 3 goals required to get this goal market to come in on their own without a contribution from Southampton. So I think Newcastle will end, spoiler alert, the first game week at the top of the league on goal difference with a 3-goal victory over Southampton. After this, it's Nottingham Forest up against Bournemouth. Bournemouth, they've lost their talisman from last season, Dominic Solanke, but it does have to be said, not that he was a one-season wonder per se. However, a lot of his success came from last season, and Bournemouth, this was probably, if they were ever going to sign him and get a good amount of money for him, it would have been this transfer window, and they did do it. They managed to get a lot of money from Tottenham for Solanke, so it's, I'm sure, a disappointment for Bournemouth fans to see him go, but regardless, I would still call it good business. So this game, I think it's going to be a close game. Forest, in my opinion, at home have the slight edge. I think at the Vitality Stadium, I'd go the other way. I wanted to go 2-1 to Nottingham Forest, but opening day, crazy fixtures, lots of goals. I'm going to go one more and say it's going to be 2-2 between Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth. And for the tip, I'm going to woe back, err on the side of caution, and say both teams to score at 1.61. Now, after this, a very, very intriguing game at we've got West Ham at the London Stadium against Aston Villa, and this is a very, very, very intriguing fixture. West Ham slight favourites at home here. They've probably had one of the best transfer windows, and they are somewhat of a dark horse for me in that crazy table that I referenced earlier on in this video. I actually tipped West Ham to finish 6th in the Premier League. I think West Ham, with no European football, could really push for those Europa League places. But Aston Villa, they will also be wanting to do that. They'll be wanting to push for Champions League places again. You know, they did it last year. Why not again? So I think it's going to be a draw. I'm going to go for West Ham 1, Aston Villa 1. I think Villa are a better team, but who knows? Villa have Champions League to worry about this season. West Ham, they could push up the table, and if West Ham do get 6th, there's nothing to say Villa don't still finish above them. It all depends really on the likes of Chelsea, United and Tottenham and how they do, as far as I'm concerned with that, and how the top of the table looks by the end of the year. But I think West Ham, they could have a very good season this year, but I'm going to go 1-1, and again, both teams to score at 1.5. After this, probably the most forgettable fixture of the opening day, I would say. It's going to be Brentford up against Crystal Palace. Forgettable on paper, not forgettable from the scoreline. I'm going to go for something absolutely mental. I'm going to go for Brentford 3, Crystal Palace 3. Another score draw. That is 4 score draws in a row. I've predicted 5 draws in total for this game week. This is the last one of the 5. I just think It's hard to really go for an out-and-out winner when there aren't so many clear-cut, one-sided fixtures in this opening game week. I think teams will just try and see how it goes, and that will lend itself, I think, to more goals. And I'm going to go for 3-3. And my tip is going to be both teams to score over 2.5 goals at 2, because I could get the result and narrative of this game entirely wrong. Brentford or Palace could both win 2-1, right? Which is nothing like a 3-3 score. But the tip of both teams to score and over 2.5 goals still comes in at evens. Now, after this, you could probably argue it is game of the week. It was definitely game of the season last year. Chelsea up against Manchester City. Obviously, the game of the season that I'm referencing was the 4-4 thriller. Absolutely phenomenal scenes. Obviously, Cole Palmer has recently signed a bumper to his contract. A 9-year deal now. He will be at Chelsea unless he gets bought and, you know, transferred, etc. His contract goes until 2033. I remember, like, last year or the year before, we were freaking out at contracts going to, like, 2027. Chuck 6 years on that. Cole Palmer will be 31 by the time his contract ends, and he's a youth player. Like, he's still a youth player. First teamer, don't get me wrong, but still, that is insane. However, Man City to win, the odds are 1.83, so I am going to tip that. I'm going to go for a 2-1 City win. I thought about Man City and both teams to score, but the odds of 1.83 on their own are good enough. However, I do think Chelsea could cause an upset here. And as an Arsenal fan, I'm really hoping for that. This is Super Sunday. We will see Liverpool. We'll see Arsenal. We'll see Newcastle. We will see them win on Saturday, right? Hopefully. So the pressure will be on because one of Chelsea and Man City has to drop points, maybe both. I could see a score draw. I'm just going to back Manchester City until I see reasons to do otherwise. I think they will beat Chelsea, but it will be close. I also, if you watch my video, I have Chelsea finishing in the top 4. I think Chelsea will have a good season, so I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be one of City's hardest fixtures of the season, and I'm glad it's week 1. I really am, especially with Arsenal having an easy one up against Wolves, because it doesn't get easy for Arsenal later on in the early fixtures. The final one, it is the King Power Stadium, Leicester up against Tottenham. Leicester favourites to be relegated, obviously off the back of an impending points deduction. I believe I tipped them to finish 18th in the league. With that in mind, I still think they could maybe push for higher. It'd be great if they get a points deduction and actually stay up, because then that means one of the Premier League mainstays of the last couple of years will go down. Hopefully it's Everton. I don't know. Something about Everton. I want to see them go down. I don't know. Maybe just for a year. They can come back after, which they would do if they went down. But just get them gone for once. Either way, Leicester, Tottenham. I think both teams are going to score, but Tottenham should have the edge. Why not Solanke debut goal for Tottenham in the Premier League? I'm going to go for Tottenham to win 2-1. And I've actually pulled the trigger, pushed the button on the result on both teams to score market here. Tottenham and both teams to score at 2.87. So that's going to do it. Like I said, drop a like, subscribe. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers this season. Leave your predictions down in the comments. Join over on the Patreon to get involved with the giveaway and exclusive tips for all sorts of leagues. And I'll see you in the next video very soon.